Oh, good morning from Djuma Private Game Reserve to this beautiful sunrise safari here with me, Stefan Winterboer, and on camera today, Andrew. On the other vehicle we have Jamie and we have VM, who's back from leave, and I'm sure rearing to go to get out here today. And what a morning. Mist in the valleys, sunrise coming up through the mist. Couldn't have wished for a better start this morning. The bush is dead quiet. We've heard some lions roaring this morning from around about where we are at the moment. And we're going to sit here just for a little bit. They roar in sections of about 4 to 6, 7 minutes. And it was about 7 minutes ago that we heard them roar for the last time. And I'm hoping that they roar again so that they can give us an idea of
Ooh, I lost her. Tara, I've lost you. Tara for Jamie. Okay, copy. I've got you back. It just cut out halfway through that message. So good morning everyone, and welcome to the sunrise safari. And we do apologize for our streaming issues. We were having an attack of the gremlins. So if you were wondering what my morning was spent doing, we must say a big thank you to all of you who alerted us to the presence of the Birmingham boys on the Arethusa Dam camera. So VM and myself, and a big welcome back to VM. It's great to have the wildebeest back on board with us once again. VM and myself spent the morning trying to follow up on those Birmingham boys, and the Arethusa guides very kindly let us come in ahead of all of the others just to see them as they crossed our western boundary, and they were very clearly on a mission. So although we did have streaming issues, we did stay and watch them cross, and we did record a clip to show you. So here is the clip of the Birmingham boys crossing west away from Arethusa and into Elephant Plains. So guys, how awesome was that? And we have a big thank you to say to Susan, Mavis, Bob, Leslie and Diane and Crystal and many, many others, all of whom alerted us to the presence of the Birmingham boys at the Arethusa Dam camera. So a big, big shout out to you guys. Thanks for that. Without you, we may not have got there in time, but as it was, we did just manage to get our way in and just see them, those 4 boys crossing across. We did get to see that big, big male blondie, who looks to be the oldest of the group, and his limp is looking much better, in my opinion. He doesn't look nearly as much like he's favoring that one leg. So the Birmingham boys up to full strength and clearly on a mission to explore territories further to the west of us. Now, I'm not entirely sure how far the Matimba male's territory extends, but I did hear that, I do know that there are other males in the area, so I'd be very interested to see exactly how far west they extend and how brave they plan on being. It is going to be an interesting time for those Birmingham boys. I'm very curious to know where they think they're off to and what their plans are from now. Sorry guys, I'm just listening to the Game Drive radio. I'll be with you in a moment. As we got to watch those Birmingham boys crossing across our boundary, Jill picked up on the fact that they had a lot of marks on them, and one of them in particular had a couple of scars across his back, and those are definitely battle scars. We did hear a report that the Styx lioness put up a considerable fight when her cubs were killed, so it could well be from her, as well as maybe some of the other clashes that they've had with the Nkahuma pride. And it's always and entirely possible that they did actually clash with the Matimba males at some point. We haven't actually heard any reports about it, but it is a possibility, especially since they are moving around in the Matimba's territory and really, really pushing their weight around or throwing their weight around. So for now, I'm heading in the direction of where Shadow and Sandile were last seen. They were apparently seen yesterday afternoon on the sunset safari, but south of our boundaries. So I'm just checking the regularly used areas, the places that Shadow seems to favor. It's been a while since we last saw her. The last time I saw Sandile, he was on his own, but his tracks were around with Shadows yesterday. So I'm going to be very definitely keeping an eye out for them. Now, the Birmingham boys are 5 young males for any new viewers or people who might have missed out on what's happening in the lion world around here. And a coalition of 5 strong is a really, really powerful number, and they are going to prove to be, in my expectations, fairly unpredictably strong. I think they are going to be unbeatable possibly over the next few years. And Gemma from Ohio, welcome to the Sunrise Safari. You were wondering if there is an average size for a male lion coalition. And the larger the better, obviously, for the lions. The more individuals they have, the stronger they are. I would say probably the average is around 3, possibly a little bit more. But we do get, especially in this area, I've noticed a very, very strong trend towards large male coalitions. And that could be because there are very large prides in the area, very healthy lion population. So they've got lots of siblings and cousins that they can associate with when they are younger. And of course, a male coalition doesn't necessarily have to be related in the case of lions. They're not like cheetah, who have a very, very strong genetic bond. They will accept unrelated males into a coalition as well. But typically the strongest and biggest coalitions tend to be males from the same pride related to each other and moving through the area sort of at roughly the same age. So I think if we were to do an average across Africa in terms of male coalition numbers, we'd probably find that it sits at around 2 or 3, but obviously the bigger coalitions are much of out competing all of the other males. So some fascinating times do lie ahead. I have heard reports, and I'm still reading up on it, but I have heard reports that the northern split of the Matimba coalition is also now under pressure from a new group of young males known as the skybed males. And that's also a coalition of 5 younger boys. So it will be interesting to see how this whole situation plays out. And even more ironically, if some of the histories that I've read up about are to be believed, and I'm sure they are, there's a lot of people who've been very closely monitoring the lions. It seems as though, in a certain twist of irony, the Birmingham boys, who were originally seen on Tinswalu in 2012 on their own and first labeled as a coalition, the Birmingham boys came from a very large pride known as the Birmingham Pride, and they were actually pushed out of that pride and sent off on their way and on their explorations by the Matimba males up in the north, so relatives of Hairy Belly and Ginger. So it's interesting how the wheel has, in its own way, the wheel has turned out here, and the Birmingham boys have returned to the southern Matimba males to push them out of their territory. Very, very interesting how lion dynamics work like that. And for those of you who are wondering about the way that they are named, I'm still trying to find out exactly why the Birmingham Pride was called the Birmingham Pride, but that is where the Birmingham boys get their names from. So they were part of the large Birmingham Pride in Tinswalu, which is quite far to the north of us. It's north even of Manuleti. At about 3 o'clock this morning at my camp, where I'm living at the moment, I heard lots and lots of lion vocalizations, and apparently a lot of the zoomies picked up on a sort of call and response happening at 5 o'clock this morning between the Birmingham boys and quite possibly the Matimbas. And Rita, good morning, welcome to the Sunrise Safari. Rita would like to know where the other lions are. I don't know, to be completely honest. I was a little bit far away from all of the action to get a good fix on their location just by listening to their audio. None of the other guides on this particular Western radio channel have reported seeing the Matimbas or seeing their tracks, but it is something that I've been keeping an eye out for. I am curious to see. The Matimbas have been Sorry, hello. Early roadblock. That was a bit of a surprise for both of us concerned. It's okay. And I'm just going to shift forward slightly if I can. There is a very sweet little baby off to my right. I'd like to just get a visual. He's currently in the process of finding his feet. So we've got a very, very large herd of elephants here. I would be quite keen to call it in if I could remember the road that I'm on, but isn't that little baby too sweet? Practicing to be a dance seems, still a little bit unsteady on his or her feet. And this is a very, very young baby, at least under a year old, easily. Hello, little one. Looks like a little girl. Still very unsure on her feet and in terms of trunk coordination. These ellies are in a very, very thick block, but there's quite a few of them. This is quite a large herd, and it makes me wonder. Yesterday afternoon on the sunset safari, we had a tiny splinter group consisting of a female and 3 younger males, including her calf. And we were wondering about where the rest of their herd was, because the 3 young males were definitely not hers, only one of them was. So I wonder if this is the rest of the herd, and if that particular female has made her way back to them and to their protection. There's a group of elephants that Andrew nicknamed the Goldilocks group when we saw them yesterday afternoon. They were being highly entertaining. Just going to shift back a little bit so we can get a, although there is quite a large individual coming towards us now. Just want to see if it's a big bull or if it is just a really, really large female. Tucked away there behind the guari bush. I think instead of moving backwards, I'm going to try and shift forward a little bit, see if we can get another glimpse of that little baby as well. I'm just going to try and reposition as soon as the elephant behind me has moved out of my space. There we go. I'm just making sure that I don't startle any members of this group. Just quite a big female. I'm actually going to move further up the road and then turn around so we can try and get a good visual of these ellies. Also gives me a chance just to put the vehicle in low range so that I can keep my revs down. The brakes on jigger are very subtle at the moment. So for those of you who might have missed out on my elephant baby poo project, I've been trying to observe little baby elephants defecating and then having a look at the size of their poo when I can see what age they are. And that just the ability, whenever I see tiny little pieces of dung, to work out roughly how old the elephant would have been. And Pat, you have got a fantastic suggestion for a name for my project, and that is Project Packy Poo, which I think works beautifully, both in terms of alliteration and description of what I intend to do. It's just a fun little project, and it helps me. It'll always be interesting to be able to guess how old an elephant was. It started out with just a guessing game for a tiny piece of elephant dung that I picked up, and we were trying to work out how old that elephant would have been. It was very, very tiny. And I did some reading just in terms of the contents of that dung. And apparently elephants, baby elephants, will actually start eating solids at around 6 months of age. So even this little one here, who's feeling particularly shy, she will already be eating the same diet as her mom, although she will also still be relying on mommy's milk for another 2 or so years. So Pat, thank you for that. I think that's an epic suggestion for the name. I was planning on heading back to the western side of the Arathusa Dam wall, where we saw those 3 young elephants, and we definitely saw at least 2 of them defecate, and we've got 2 perfect age groups there. The youngest one was probably around 2, and the older one was probably around 5 or 6. So I was going to head back. Unfortunately, my Project Packy Poo had to be put on hold yesterday afternoon because the elephants were still there, and I didn't fancy my chances up against mommy elephant. I'm just going to see if we can get another visual. They are very much tucked away in here. Hello, Mom. It's all right. It's okay. Very, very big female. And she's got a perfect ID feature on her right ear. That notch will be with her for life, and we will now always know this elephant by that very, very clear cut in her ear. Here we go. Nice notch right in the top, in the bend of her ear. And that will be with her for life. It might get slightly bigger, but it will never heal up. And it was probably caused just by catching that thin ear skin on a thorn or something in that area. And it just maybe got slightly infected and stayed that way, or healed up that way. There's our little baby making another appearance. Absolutely adorable. You can see still, oh, being pushed over by one of the other small babies. Still lacking in that quite essential trunk coordination. She wants to get hold of that grass, but she just can't quite manage it. And they are absolutely wonderful at this age. They are so curious and just ever so slightly uncoordinated. But life's tough when you're that small in a herd this big. So, a little calf I've identified as being a little female. I'm not sure about the other calf that's just on the left of it. And they will have a nice even split in terms of males and females. And William, welcome to the Sunrise Safari. You would like to know, in my experience, if one, either male or female, are more playful as calves. And I would say that young males, especially over the age of 3 or 4, tend to be the most playful. They spend a lot of time sparring with each other. But that being said, calves younger than 3 years old, both sexes are equally playful and absolutely adorable to watch. And this big female is just moving off. You'll notice how, I would say, most of the time she's kept herself between us and the small baby. I don't think that she's the mother of that little baby, but she will definitely be a high-ranking individual in this herd, and she'll be keeping a very, very close watch on us as her herd moves through here. This little one, oh, made it. He's struggling up the dogger. So from one pachyderm group to another, Steph has a very actively foraging elephant to show you, and I will be back with you a little bit later.
And from baby elephants to the elephant that we've found, there's a female elephant in association with a herd. The herd has moved off, but she's found a food source here that's actually quite fascinating. She's knocked over a tree. I don't know what tree it is because she's standing on it, and she's using her trunk and her tusks to rip out the roots of this tree. And what we've seen her do is almost do a full handstand to break the roots, and we're going to see if she actually goes and does it again. I have no doubt that she will. Let's go and see. So she's using her foot there, grabbed a root, and is now using her toenails to kick the root off. Let's see if she bends down and uses her tusks again. It's just a brilliant demonstration of how versatile elephants are and how they can use that massively dexterous trunk that they've got, their toenails and then their tusks, and all three of them in combination sometimes. See what she does. We parked just a little bit far away from her at the moment. I didn't want to disturb her feeding. She was exhibiting such amazing behavior. So she's put some roots. There we go. A bit of a shake there, getting a bit frustrated with the roots. Feeling around with the trunk. So she's extended her trunk fully. Kicking out there with the toes. You can see her putting her foot there. Using her back of her foot now to add some weight. There we go. You can see the little puff of dust coming out of the... Just digging again with her foot to uncover some more roots. Feeling again with the trunk. She's able to smell with that trunk, so the roots actually have a smell. So by uncovering the sand, she can blow the sand away. She can suck up the scent of the roots and then dig out with her toes. Have a look at that. She'll see rip. That was now a root that was just a bit too strong for her. Incredible. I thought she was going to put some more force behind that, but you can see she actually used her entire leg to try and leverage that root off and still couldn't do it. Once again, using that foot to dig. Scrape away all the sticks. Look there, look what she's doing there. Throwing the stick away. You know, this time of year we're seeing these elephants become so industrious in their feeding techniques. It's really amazing to see. Look at that tail that she's holding skew there. I think she's getting a bit frustrated with the fact that she can't feed. With the ears up. See what she does. No, she's moving off. Decided that those roots are not the best. See where she's going to go now. Push under the branch. Have a look at that. Using her tusks there on the ground. Digging her tusks into the ground. Lifting up that root. Amazing, eh? Got the root in her mouth there now. Wow. See the root coming out the other side? So she's just running it through her molars, taking off the root bark. That's where all the nutrition lies. And now it's coming out the other, there we go. Drops it out the other side. So she's chewed off the root bark. Now she's busy kicking another root. This broken down tree, the effort that they put into it is just crazy. See if she uses her tusks again. Now she's coming straight towards us. Let's see what she's gonna do. Hello girl. How are you? There we go. Battling to find enough food there. That head up display, that's just I think because we here and her herd has actually moved off. It's not to worry, she's not lost or anything like that. These elephants can communicate over incredible distances. I think she just looked up and didn't see anyone. See what she goes and does there now. Still just casually walking on with that stick still in her mouth. Drongo flying in and out of her wake, catching any insects that are potentially knocked out of the grass. Let's see where she goes and what she up to. This elephant's proving to be a very good value for money from a sightings point of view. Hey, she's let's see if she's gonna dig up any more trees. And give her some cover to hide behind. Just moving on after a herd that are going into this thick bush that's in front of us at the moment. The typical elephant walk with her head shaking. Still busy chewing on her stick. I think we're going to leave her. We're going to carry on looking for something else. Here she moves off into the bush. The rest of her herd are spread out in an arc in front of her. Looking at her the way that she is, and looking at the fact that her hips stuck out a little bit, Anna Marie has commented that they must be struggling a bit now for food until the spring gets here. And Anna Marie, that is true. They do struggle a little bit for volumes of food, to be honest, but not for nutrition. They do lose a little bit of condition in the dry season. They have to walk a lot further between feeding areas and between water. But they do eat a lot of woody material. They eat a lot of roots, as you've just seen. They still get nutrition from tree bark and from branches, and the little bit of grass that they do feed on can keep them going. From now until about the beginning of November, it is a little bit of a tough time for ellies. And you'll see what happens is they actually stop feeding for a while. In places like the Chobe National Park, elephants stop feeding during the day. They just hang around near water sources on the Chobe River, keeping themselves cool, keeping themselves hydrated, and then in the cool of the evening they'll move to feeding areas. And here, not so much. Here, there's a lot of water around. There's a lot more woody species of plants that are accessible here. And you find that rather than stopping activity and just staying around water points, these elephants will feed into the night, in the cool of the night, in the cool of the morning, and then eat again. And eating basically anything woody that they can find. They've got a very, very, very varied diet. Let's see if we can get in front here. While I do, Jennifer in Toronto has asked or made a statement. Seems like a lot of effort for not that much food value. A lot of calories burnt for not that much food value. It all comes down to nutrition, Jennifer. Elephants put on a bit of reserves in the summertime. They put on a bit of fat reserves, and they do use a lot of calories for that. But they just keep themselves healthy. They keep those minerals, the essential minerals, in their systems. Once again, she's eating some roots. Amazing, actually. pulling those roots out of the ground. I'm told that Jamie's elephant calves are quite energetic this morning, and I'm told that they're bouncing around. I'm sure that you want to go back and see what they're up to. So while we stay with these elephants for their breakfast, or follow up on any clues around here, we're going to send you back through to Jamie and enjoy the show.
Welcome back, everyone, and our ellie herd is proving fairly difficult to keep up with, except for this one who's just decided to come right up to us, although I think he's going to go behind us. Hello. Sorry, just keeping an eye on him, or her. Looks like a her. Hello. So, hey, behave yourself. So our ellies have proved to be a little bit secretive, and they're tucked away in the drainage line. That tiny, tiny baby moved across with mom, and very typically true to elephant form, with sort of covered by or surrounded by some of the bigger, higher ranking females just to protect her. And they crossed in front of us and they've moved off into the drainage line. So I'm going to try and reposition, see if we can have a look at them. This is quite a big herd, they seem to be all around, but I don't want to put them on edge or anything like that, so we're going to move nice and slowly, especially since my brakes are a little bit squeaky. So I'm going to try and avoid using those at pretty much at all costs. And let's see if we can get a nice visual of that little one again. Project Pachyderm poo, Project Packy poo. So as we try and approach this little baby again, without disturbing them in any way, Lisa, apparently this is one of the youngest babies that the viewers have seen on WildEarth, and she is very, very tiny. You can see how unbelievably uncoordinated she is. There she is now. Just try and... They are going to keep her fairly secret. Too old. So very, very young, hugely uncoordinated. Unfortunately also very, very protected by mommy and a couple of the other big females. They've come into this very, very thick stuff. But she's also very, very confident in herself, very comfortable. When we had her a little bit earlier, she came not right up to the car, but she did come and have a sniff, waving the little trunk around, just had a look at us. So she is comfortable and feeling secure, which is typical behavior of baby elephants when they know that their mom weighs a couple of tons and is probably going to be there to protect them from pretty much any threat that they might encounter. Fortunately, still very, very tucked away in this thick bush. I'm just trying to see if there's an option in terms of relocating, or whether it's worth just letting them come out into the open. I'm just looking to see if there's a nice open space that they're heading towards. But I think they might stop here for a while. There's some really good drainage line feeding opportunities. And that little baby obviously is very, very young, and in a way shares a lot of traits that human children do, especially that lack of proprioception and coordination, still learning to use her little trunk. She is tucked away right in the back there. Not easy elephants for VM to film on his first day back. And Virginia from Kentucky, welcome to this sunrise safari. You were wondering if baby elephants suck on their trunk in the same way human babies suck on their fingers in terms of a comfort motion. And the answer is yes, I have seen them do it. I don't think that they do it, or it is as habit forming as it can be for human children, but I have seen baby elephants suck on their own trunks before. And often I wonder if it was just an accident and they're still exploring the way that their coordination works. As I try and reposition, Steph has got a prancing daycare, so I will reposition and be back with you a little bit later.
And for one of the largest animals on the planet to one of the smallest of the mammals, at least anyway, this is a young male steenbok. One of the dwarf antelope that we found out here. And he's literally done a full 360 around the car. Not a very old steenbok. Characterized by that rusty colored fur with a white underbelly. Very selective browsers. I'm going to reposition the car slightly more backwards. See if we can do it without just shaking the car a little bit. See if we can do it without starting. There we go. Now, because of the dry conditions, I know for those who have watched the show over the last couple of weeks, we've seen some unusual behavior. We see them burying their dung, which is difficult when the grass is very green and very high. But they also, if and when possible, will give birth in termite mounds inside old disused warthog burrows and hyena dens. Can you believe? Just in an effort to hide their presence. They, obviously being the size that they are, rely quite heavily on camouflage and concealment as an anti-predator behavior. And I just thought it was one of the most unique facts that I've ever learned about the steenbok, is the fact that they give birth underground when they can. Very agile little antelope. I've actually watched one of them outrun a cheetah, believe it or not. See if we can watch him run across the road. You should come out of the grass there. There we go, onto the road. Now they have territories. I think a young one like this is probably not actively marking his territory just yet. I would imagine that a young steenbok like this is actually still in his mother's territory. However, as soon as his mother starts coming into estrus, his father will kick him out. They literally are nomadic for a couple of years until they find an area where there are no steenbok, and then from there they'll set up a territory, and females, similarly, who are nomadic for a few years, will meet up, hopefully not previous or not siblings, and from there they'll set up their little territories, which is about 50 hectare. Not that big. Tiny little territory that they mark with glands, and they mark with middens, urine patches and latrines, and they'll live there together until one of them die. A monogamous pair. So there's a steenbok. He's gone on his way, and I think what we're going to do is carry on going with ours. We're busy checking our eastern boundary for any signs of anything that's come in or gone out over the last couple of hours. So far, what we've seen, I just want to check with my binoculars down the road there. There seems to be something in the road. It's a herd of people, but I just see their heads there because they are below the horizon. So bizarre looking shape there, but nonetheless just these disjointed heads on the horizon. Let's carry on with our day. So far we found tracks of a leopard, a female leopard, but she unfortunately crossed into a game reserve south of where we can go. And I found tracks of some wild dog which were running on the road here where we are right now, but also crossed out south of where we are. Not too much of a story. If everything's crossing south, we're going to be going to our northern boundary and see whatever's crossing from the north into the south into our traverse. So if that's the way the wind is blowing today, that's what we're going to be doing. Lots of elephant. Looked like they camped out on this road last night. Some buffalo as well. You can see I'm driving quite slowly. The reason for that is to give me enough time to speak to you, to scan through the bush, keep my engine revolutions at a low enough rate so that I can listen to the bush around me, and give me time to scan ahead and see where I want to look for tracks. So there's a sandy patch coming up about there, and it's there that I'm going to look for tracks. So when I get there, turn in front, scan for some tracks. We've got some rodent tracks, some elephant tracks, some bird tracks, and nothing much else. And now back to scanning left and right, obviously using Andrew's spotting techniques as well. And while I'm doing that, I'm picking out another patch of sand in the road ahead, see what we can see there. Have a look around prominent termite mounds, inside trees. So we've got some buffalo. Looks like a bachelor herd of males, quite a few in actual fact. I think it's well worth us going to go and have a look inside there and see what they're up to. Definitely more than the usual 5 or 6 characters. Looks like there could easily be a dozen inside there. Let's see what we can see. Watch out your face, Andrew. Now, large bachelor herds of buffalo are not that common. Far and wide you get these small groups of buffalo. Look at this one buffalo is even fast asleep and lying down. Let's see if we can get him. We're not going to get much closer, we're going to disturb them. But that buffalo that's in the center of the screen there now is lying flat down on his side having a snooze. Definitely more than a couple of male buffalo here. Now these are all the male buffalo that are not in association with the herd. There his friend goes and wakes him up. These big cantankerous animals. There, another one just flopped over on his side. It's where they've been chased around last night. But I think that these animals, they attract such a lot of attention from lion from time to time that when they don't, or when they are not being harassed, they definitely take the time to sit back and catch up on some missed sleep. They don't need to sleep for that long. You're looking at around about 4 hours or so at a time, or a day at least. That buffalo looks like he's doing something funny. A branch is at just the right height there to help him scratch underneath his boss. That buffalo is so funny. He's just using that branch there to giving himself a good scratch on that little branch, trying to get to all the places. Now, this bachelor herd isn't a structured herd. It definitely is a loose association of bulls. There is, however, a very strict hierarchy that's inside these buffalo bulls. Something that they would have been literally vying for position in this hierarchy from when they were very young. So they stay in there close to their moms for a few years, and then they join basically this hierarchy of bulls that's in association with the herd but also separate. So Jenna Brown has asked, how long do buffalo live for if these buffalo bulls who basically, I suppose, look healthy but are not in association with the herd, how long do they live for? Jenna, they live for about 15 years. 15, 16 years is their average lifespan. I doubt, though, that buffalo in the wild reach anywhere close to that. I'd say that probably between 9 and 12 years are, is probably a good average. What is funny is that their herd that they're in association with has a home range. Their herd will when the herd comes through this area, these buffalo bulls will go and associate themselves with that herd. Have a look at them all getting up at the moment. That's called horn rubbing. Buffalo really enjoy doing that. It gets rid of the parasites and flies on their faces. Sort of a buffalo face cloth. There's a buffalo scratching his face on that tree, or his neck on that tree under here. The buffalo just using that, I suppose, as a type of loofah. Now these herd home ranges are massive. Coming back to that, they're between 60 and 1,000 square kilometers. So you're looking at a place like the Sabi Sands being around about 65,000 or 65 square kilometers. It would be home to one big herd of buffalo, potentially two on a boundary somewhere, but the herds, their home ranges don't overlap. And inside of these home ranges, the buffalo know exactly where the best grazing is, where their water points are, where it's safe, and it's within these home ranges that the old bull buffalo that are being kicked out of the herd by the younger, more energetic bulls will live. So these bull buffalo are in their home range, they won't leave it, but they're not in a direct association with the herd. The herd attracts too much attention from lion and from they need to move too often for water and for food, and these old guys enjoy the peace and quiet of not having to move as much as that. And over the years, these guys will literally just be whittled down and whittled down. Let me count the buffalo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 buffalo. So almost a dozen. You know, it's amazing. They were lying over here just relaxing, and now all of a sudden they're up and they're eating again. What got them to do that? Why they're doing it, who knows? Now what I have noticed is that there are a couple of young buffalo, not too many. I'd say probably about 3 at most, buffalo who should still be with the herd, which tells me that that herd might be close to where we are at the moment. Those young buffalo are now buffalo that are not sexually mature. And they would be joining this bachelor herd of buffalo for a bit before the compulsion to join the prime bulls, the mating bulls, becomes too much, and then they go back to the herd again. So they're literally just here for companionship and this compulsion to want to be amongst buffalo bulls so that they can cement their hierarchy. And this is quite often quite a violent affair. Buffalo have those bosses on their head, those horns. That's for fighting. They run at each other and bash their heads together and hook at one another with their horns. I've never really seen massive injuries occur, although when you see them fighting with one another, it's a titanic battle. grazing on the grass. Amazing. You don't see elephant eating this grass, they're eating just trees, and yet these buffalo get enough sustenance from this grass. I suppose it's very similar to what hay would be at the moment. It's very dry. Most of it lying flat in actual fact. Last of these big guys coming through here, these big buffalo. Massive. They probably weigh around about 600 to 800 kilograms. Not quite as heavy as a North American bison. A North American bison is slightly heavier. But probably about the same bulk size, I think. Without all that hair and that massive boss. Also, funnily enough, slightly smaller than the Indian water buffalo as well. This is the Cape buffalo. You get the forest buffalo. I'm just busy going through all the buffalo that you get in my mind. And they're all round about the same size, except the forest buffalo. The forest buffalo is slightly smaller. Water buffalo bigger, musk ox slightly smaller, but of course have that very shaggy coat. Bison slightly bigger. Water buffalo slightly bigger. And all of them have a reputation for being quite cantankerous and hardcore. Anyway, these buffalo are moving off into the grass, and I think it would be a good time for us to carry on our search for cats and see what we can pull out of the grass. Yeah. Alrighty, let's carry on going. Quite an elastic tree I've just driven over. It's also an acacia species, so it has a very deep root system. Pushing it over slowly like that does nothing much to it. Just to answer a question that's come in a bit late for us to have a look, and Lisa White has asked, what is that white ring around their eyes? And Lisa, that's just literally scar tissue. It's literally where they sit, and to get sticks between their bosses, they quite often rub the skin around their eyes into a bald patch, and over the years that turns into sort of white scar tissue, a white hairless patch of scar tissue. So they carry a massive amount of ticks, buffalo, up to 60,000 ticks per buffalo. Which is massive. I mean, can you imagine how that must itch for them? Once again, just checking. Remember, as we're looking at every junction when we can. We've got a junction coming up here, so we're going to be looking and seeing what crossed over. Oh, we've got leopard tracks here, big male leopard. All right. Let me see if I can show you these tracks. There's some over my shoulder here. You see those there, Andrew?
Yeah.
So that's exactly what I've been looking at. That is the track of a big male leopard. If you go slightly more right, Andrew, there's a fresher one there, or a more crisp one I should say. There we go, coming into the screen over there. Notice the rounded edges on the side. I'm going to get out of the vehicle just so that I can show you the track properly. But I know it's a male because of its size and because it's got these rounded edges to it on this side here. So very rounded track, quite big. If I put my fist in it, should be about as broad as my fist. And he's walked off in this direction, which is, I haven't seen any tracks that are going down the road. So my feeling is he's actually walked into our territory, which is nice. It's exactly what we were hoping to find. So now it's just a question of deciding where he is, basically. I'm just plugging myself back in here again. So now it's a question of just finding out where this particular animal crossed in on our side. And then taking it from there. I'm just busy scanning here. There his track is there. Right, I think we're going to turn down this road over here. Male leopard quite enjoy walking in straight lines. He's come down this road onto this path a bit, but I think we're going to carry on in this direction over here and see if his tracks don't come out on this road. They're not the freshest fresh tracks. I think if anything I would say it's probably from early last night. But nonetheless, we have a male leopard on Juma, which is a good thing. So now it just comes a question of me adopting a thought process and with a little bit of luck. So feel free to cross your fingers for us. Wish us what luck you can. It's not an easy thing finding a leopard, not unless they're being shouted at by some monkeys or being shouted at by some impala or some kudu. What we are going to do is definitely switch off from time to time to listen in this area. Impala and kudu, monkeys, squirrels, they will all give away the presence of this animal. We're just going to take our time to make sure that we're not missing any clues here. Give us a nice chance to listen. We've got some zebra and we have a kudu. On our right hand side. Some general game that is not playing with from a viewing point of view. Let's go back and see if we can get a better visual of these animals together. It'd be quite nice seeing zebra and kudu together, I think. Give us some time to listen to the bush around us. There we go. Some zebra. These are birchals or plain zebra. They're constantly waving tails. They almost seem to never ever stop wagging their tails. Excuse me for the protracted silence, but I'm just using the opportunity to listen to the bush around us. See that shadow stripe between the bold stripes is diagnostic of the birchal zebra. There's a couple of different zebra species that you find in Africa, but none of that shadow stripe that you see there. That is just for the birchal zebra. And they are fantastic. And we have some kudu off on the left hand side. And some elephant. I can hear crashing around in the valley. It's all happening over here. The zebra are slowly moving off into the bush, and so have the kudu. We've spent some few minutes listening to the bush around us, and now what we're going to do is carry on looking for any signs and tracks of that male leopard. As you can see from those black and white stripes, not much to do with camouflage. There's so many hypotheses floating around there as to why zebra are black and white. The one that I seem to enjoy the most happens to be the one to do with heat control, that there are more blood vessels underneath the black stripes than there are underneath the white stripes. And what happens is you have a temperature differential. You have the sun heating up the black stripes and creating a lot of heat, and you have the sun relatively cooler on the white stripes, and so heat is sucked from the black into the white, and therefore is radiated off of the body. A temperature differential. So I thought it was quite an interesting hypothesis. It has flaws in it, but it's the one that I enjoy the most. Alrighty, let's carry on looking for this leopard. Now, I'm expecting his tracks to actually come out at this junction somewhere. We have tracks of something, but I think it looks like a hyena more than anything else. Yep, tracks of a spotted hyena. Let's go along here a little bit. Let's see where his tracks actually come off. This area is perfect for leopard. It's a very thickly bushed area. Lots of general game here. Once we establish a direction that this leopard is traveling in, it'll be a little bit easier to decide which road to take. Now, there's quite a vast network of roads and systems out here. I don't quite know how many kilometers of roads there are at Djuma, but they are very well laid out. Patches and blocks of bush between each road. Keeping my eye peeled. Waving the flies off of my head. Amazing, you go through these areas and you have no flies, and you pick up these particularly persistent flies. We just got a vehicle in front of us, just going to be giving them an update. You're going to be panning away for a second. Good morning, folks.
Hello Stefan, how are you?
Fine, thank you. We are live, but we have got male leopard tracks coming in this direction from that junction.
I've been looking at tracks a little on the way here. I haven't noticed any.
Okay.
So it may still be in that block.
All right. I don't think
there
they've...
was an aardvark that crossed the road last night. That was pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Junction. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, at the next junction.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can go and have a look.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think if we haven't seen it, then if no tracks cross over this way, there's none at that junction there, but it's been driven over on this side. We're going to have a look at that junction and see what you say. Nice big male. Awesome.
Nice.
And
Enjoy
some wild dog tracks as well. Alrighty, everybody. Thank you very much.
Down here as well, just after the junction.
Thank you.
Good.
Sorry about that, folks. Sorry to keep you panned away like that while we were just catching up. That was Lee. Both of us are in this area, and it's best to have two people looking for a cat like this. So it was just swapping some news. He says at the next junction there's some aardvark tracks, and that is definitely something that I'm going to see if I can show you. And then we are going to carry on with the search of this leopard. Obviously, we need to find the time to stop and to listen to the bush. So something that gives us an opportunity to do that, like aardvark tracks, is always good. And we maintain very good relationships with our colleagues out here. As much as what we find stuff for them, they find stuff for us. and keep us updated on the radio, and that's how we get you what we see for a lot of the time. Alright, so let me just carefully look where these aardvark tracks are. It's going to be interesting to see if I can show you what they look like. Aardvark are not typically seen very often. I'm going to see if I can find them. Right, so we've got some fresh tracks here, but I don't know if these are clear enough for me to show you or not. They're not the clearest of aardvark tracks on the face of the planet. I'm going to show you them anyway. It'll give us a turn to... Andrew, you must just say when you can get them in view.
Not even sure what they look like. So.
Andrew says he's not even sure what they look like. They are these ones here. Let's see. Yep, the ones in the bottom right hand of your screen. That is an aardvark track. Doesn't look like much, I know. Now an aardvark or an ant bear, let me show you what one looks like. Might make it a bit easier for you to picture what made that track. So this is the track that we're busy having a look at. It's just in very soft sand. And the only thing that we're seeing are these two plus the third toe, and then the names. Let me see if I can show you a picture of what one of these look like. There we go. That is an aardvark, or an ant bear. There's their coloration. Long sticky tongue, digs into termite mounds to eat termites, and I'm glad that they're living in this area. It shows that you've got a very healthy system when you've got animals like this. Depending on who you speak to, aardvarks are almost the proto-animal. They share very similar skeletal structures to the very first mammals that were ever described. Very similar to how that is. Alrighty. Close the book. Sorry?
Looks like a bit of a kangaroo type head.
It does look like a bit of a kangaroo type head. Nice long snout. Used to stick into termite mounds. Lee is going to be going down that other road, so I think it's a good idea that we go down here. Maybe we can see a fresher track of one. Still keeping our eyes peeled for this leopard. Suzanne has just made an interesting comment. Funny that we should see an aardvark track and a big male leopard track together in the same area, because Tingana is very well known for eating aardvarks. It's in actual fact where Andrew got his nickname from, was this particular phenomenon. So maybe it's coincidence, maybe it isn't. Who knows that we're finding big male leopard tracks in the same area as we're finding an aardvark. suppose a good idea now would be to look into trees to see if we can find any dead ones, eh? Track the aardvark and we'll find the leopard. Okay, so we've got some impala down there, so they're not looking too worried about anything. Okay, so keep my eyes open here on these game cards again. Funny enough, just got a bunch of hippo tracks, and have a look at this spray mark in front of us. So on that bush over there, Andrew, there is where a hippo has gone and marked some territory on his way past. Hippo belong to an order of animals called Hippomorpha, which is the same order of animals that dugongs and manatees actually belong to. And when you chase or when you research the ancestry of hippos, you'll find that they're not terrestrial animals that have gone back into water to escape predation or whatever. They're actually just marine mammals that have gone from estuaries into rivers and up from rivers. And this fact is important when you look at some sign like this that you're looking at on the floor, because hippos have never had to evolve glands for marking territory. They don't have any glands in their skin which they can use to paste, like for instance a hyena would, or for like a mongoose would. So what they have to use is they have to use their dung. So they reverse up into a bush. They defecate and flap their tails, and this would spray the bush with dung, and that is then as a signpost to other hippos from a territory point of view, and also just from a social point of view. You very infrequently find hippos passing by a bush like this that's been marked without inspecting it quite minutely. Like babies will sometimes stick their heads in there and have a good on sniff around. This looks like just one hippo that has come past. He's decided to mark some territory over here. See if we can get a bit closer and I'll show you. And you can have a look over there and see the little pieces and bits and pieces of dung. Quite difficult to see actually. There you can just see it. Some fresh hippo dung been sprayed out there all over this bush. But on that note, I do think it's a good time to go back to Jamie. Apparently she's en route to the Birmingham boys, who have just crossed back over into our side again. So she's almost there, and I think it would be nice if you go and join her from that side. So myself and Andrew are going to carry on with this leopard. Hopefully we've got an update for you soon. Until then, enjoy the show.
Welcome back everyone, and we have just received some really good news. It seems as though the Birmingham boys have not completely crossed out of Arethusa. They have gone flat right on the boundary. And we're just approaching that site, and now hopefully they decide to stay fairly close to us. We just have to work out exactly where they are. So yeah, something's definitely shouting. I'm just going to stop. Ah, baboons. And that is almost definitely in response to those lions being there. We are very, very close to that sighting, so it's almost certainly the lions that's causing that response from the baboons. Very, very exciting stuff. I'm really glad that the Birmingham boys decided not to go too far from us, so that we can get one last glimpse of them, depending on if they continue into Elephant Plains. I just have to work out exactly where they are. I think the baboons are going to tell us pretty quickly. There we go. So the baboons are shouting just off across the boundary from us, probably at the other two. Oh no, we've got all 5 Birminghams here, right on the boundary. So that was very convenient of them. I'm just going to shift around so we can have a proper look at them. The other 2 are lying in the shade in front of us, but let's have a look at these 3 first. So it looks as though we've got the younger 3 off here in the shade, which must mean that Blondie is one of the ones off to the other side. Definitely looking a little bit scratched up. Looking at the patterns of pink on the nose is quite a useful way of trying to get a rough estimate of their ages. They probably are around 4 years old, these younger ones. And still with rather full bellies. They don't look as though they've been struggling for food, which of course we knew, given that they chased the Nkuhumas off that buffalo carcass and didn't even really bother to feed on it 2 days ago. So these 3 boys have done very, very impressive things in terms of how much they've pushed into the Matimbas territory at the age they are. And this doesn't necessarily spell the end for the Matimbas. this pride takeover could go on for a while, and the Matimbas still haven't shown their fighting spirit, but it's entirely possible that they still will. And they do have age and advantage and experience on their side. So it's not necessarily the end of the Matimba rule. But if they did find themselves seriously under pressure and seriously struggling, Nicole was wondering if it would be possible for them to go and rejoin the rest of the Matimba coalition in the north. And that's difficult to answer, but personally I don't think so. The Matimba coalition in the north has been separate for quite a long time, as far as I know, a good couple of years, and they are separated by another male coalition. I think it's the Salati Lions or the Salati coalition between the Matimbas in the south and the Matimbas in the north. And they have been separate for such a long time that it would be very interesting to see if they would still band together and acknowledge each other. And the reason that question does become difficult is that it's not uncommon for coalitions, very large coalitions, to split up and then come back together, especially when faced with a threat. However, usually you find it's just that the split has happened within the same territory. Some of the males just dominate more in one area and some dominate more in the other, and they come together in that way when they have to. And he looks terribly sweet lying on his back like that. It's hard to imagine that he will be one of the lions responsible for the chaos that we've seen over the last few weeks. So Nicole, my answer would be no, but I say that hesitantly because it's always very, very difficult to predict exactly what animals are going to do. I don't think so. I think they've been apart for too long. But if it's true that the Matimba coalition in the north is under pressure from a separate younger group of males, then I guess it is possible. But the Matimbas are not gone yet. They still are very, very large, very powerful lions. And they are much, much older than this group of 5. I still haven't heard any reports from the guides as to where these males are, or the Matimba males are. I think they're still south towards Hoffman's or Chitwa. It's very useful to have your brother or your cousin's head to just rest your feet on. It doesn't seem too bothered. And male lions make such an interesting dichotomy while you watch them, because they are incredibly affectionate to each other. The bonds between these coalition members are unbelievably strong. And they're far more affectionate than they are towards cubs or lionesses within their pride. And yet they are capable of serious destruction. Just want to have a look at this particular male. Ah, that is the big male, and he is limping quite seriously. I think probably that joint got rather stiff while he was lying down. He just lions clearly are not particularly fastidious about their urine, and that's probably a purposeful approach, because he will have scratched his feet slightly in there and the urine did run down between the pads of his paws. So as he continues to walk in whichever direction these boys are going, he will carry that scent very strongly with him. So Christine, you've missed out a little bit on the safari action that's been happening over the last few days, and you were wondering if it's true that the Birmingham boys have killed the triplets or the Styx cubs that we've been watching over the past couple of weeks. And I'm sorry to have to tell you, Christine, but they did kill 2 of the cubs, the Birmingham boys. The male, we think it is the male cub. That's not confirmed, but at least one of the cubs survived and ran with the mother further south towards the Matimba males for protection. So there is at least one cub alive. The female Styx Pride member did very, very well. It seems as though she was on her way to fetch the cubs to bring them back to the rest of the Pride, and she was ambushed then, and she put up an incredible fight. Unfortunately, didn't stand much of a chance against these 5 young male lions. They did kill 2 of the cubs, and one of them carried around one of the cubs for quite a long time. I don't think he fed off it in any enormous way. I think he was just quite confused about what he had done. It's probably the first time these males have ever committed infanticide. It's just acting on a very, very strong instinct. So 2 of the cubs have been killed. The other is alive and somewhere south towards the Matimba males. Hopefully will be able to be kept safe by that mother, and she'll probably try and keep them very, very close to those Matimba boys. The Matimba males moved up into the area where the cub was killed almost immediately, but they didn't pursue the Birminghams any further than that. So yes, our 2 little cubs have been killed. It was a very sad moment, but unfortunately just part of the natural process. That 3rd cub is very much at risk, depending on how the situation plays out between the Birminghams and the Matimbas. And they did also, if you'd missed out on this, Christine, about a week or 10 days before that, they did actually kill one of the Nkuhuma lionesses as well during a scuffle on Torchwood. And in that time, one of them did consume a little bit of the body, not very much. They just fed off her ever so slightly. And it's not typical, but it's not unheard of for male lions to feed off the bodies of the lions that they've killed. I know that the Mapojos were fairly famous for it. It's unclear how these Birminghams are going to progress over the next few days. Over the next few months. It is uncommon for them to eat there, but it is also a show of defiance and a show of authority for them to do so. And we can't forget that these boys are very, very inexperienced in terms of the actions that they are carrying out at the moment. They're acting purely on instinct, and they are sort of approaching this whole thing from a learning perspective. And I've had some rather unexpected news about the Matimba males. So I mentioned that I thought that they would be hanging around further to the south, but Asif tells us that, who has updated us, that the Matimba boys have moved further north into Manyaleti. This is certainly, to me, fairly unexpected news. I'm not sure who was then calling last night when I heard the call and response. It was definitely male lions calling. Maybe this group of Birmingham boys had split up. So thank you for that, Asif. I will try and get some news from some of the other guides in that area. They would have probably had to cross through Buffelshoek to get there, which would have been a very, very brave move or bold move on their part. since the Birmingham boys were up in Buffelshoek. I'm going to reposition and see if we can get a slightly better view of the other three who are lying down in the shade just off to my right. And in the meantime, I'm going to send you back across to Steph for an update on how his leopard tracking is going.
Oh, welcome back to this tracking excavation. I just spotted a bird that I want to try and see if I can show you. Myself and Andrew are currently busy with the top, yeah. Have a look at that grandpa of an, and I just want to see what bird this is actually. I can't actually see it. It just looks like something that we haven't ID'd before. And of course it's just a normal fork-tailed drongo that has managed to stump me. I'm just sitting in an atypical position. But have a look at this enormous tamboti. That's something that isn't very typical. That is literally one of the biggest tamboti trees I have ever seen in my life. And is probably close on 400, 500, maybe even 600 years old. That tree has been sitting in that particular place for 600 years watching. Can you imagine the stories that have come out of this tree? Can you imagine what it's seen? Real beautiful tree. And protected. So not only is it protected in the fact that this is a game reserve, but you can't cut down tamboti trees anymore, not without a license and a harvesting license. One of Africa's precious hardwoods. And is finally enjoying the protection it's needed. So I'm glad it survived. Was widely used in the furniture making industry for a few years, making inserts for jewelry boxes and for chests. It is a very, very fine grained, beautifully grained, like brown, rich brown wood with these white veins in it and a beautiful smell. It's called an African cedar in actual fact is the word, and just an enormous tree. Anyway, a bit of an update on our leopard tracks. Myself and Andrew went back to where we last saw the leopard tracks. Here we got that was a grey duiker doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing, diving away. Doing exactly what leopard tracks quite often do is disappear into a block with no sign of where they come out, not on a game path, not on anything. So now we're just circling that block to see where they come out. The tracks are not crisp fresh, so I'm expecting them to come out of the block. If you do hear a bit of a squeak, it is Wendy just protesting at something. So she's got a few years on her and is allowed to protest from time to time. So now, just keeping my ears and eyes open. Any signs?
Welcome back, and as you can see, we have repositioned to have a look at this particularly large member of the Birmingham boys who has just decided that he's tired of looking at us. And I do think that in terms of behavior, as he He is the oldest member. He might be the one who is pushing for the most dominance and starting all of the trouble that they've been causing. And we do apologize for the signal trouble that Steph was experiencing, which is why we're back quickly with me. And there you can see there's the Birmingham boy with the very injured ear. It is looking a little bit floppy. Doesn't seem to be causing him too much in the way of pain, but it certainly looks as though it's been chewed on, and there is a deep cut at the back. And that was almost certainly from the Styx lioness defending her cubs. And just looking at the size of their feet, I know that I keep saying this, but these boys are going to be absolutely enormous in the next 2 years or so. They are going to be a fairly unstoppable force, unless another larger coalition comes into the area, or they split, which has happened in the past. It's interesting how prior to their invasion, if we can call it that, we had such a good grasp on the different lion dynamics and where the prides were and what they were doing. And since then, I heard about 4 lionesses who were up at Sydney's dam. That was about 2 days ago, and we had the Birmingham boys crossing through right in front of our camp, making straight for them. I have no idea which lionesses they were. And then, of course, that lioness that Steph had yesterday afternoon on the sunset safari, who I believe, though I could be wrong, I believe was one of the Styx lionesses, the female that was mating with Hairy Belly a couple of weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago. When we entered this sighting, we heard lots and lots of baboons shouting, and I said that that was probably in response to the presence of these lions. And I actually think I might have been wrong about that. I think there might have been something else moving through the area. They were a little bit further away from these lions than I realized, and they've since gone quiet. And I do wonder whether there was not a leopard wandering through, unfortunately, just to the west of our boundary. I'm right on the edge. The boundary of Arethusa to Elephant Plains is basically marked by a big drainage line, and we are just on the one side of it. These boys certainly look as though they have settled in for the day, and hopefully they will still be here for the sunset safari. Then at least, even if they do get up and move, at least we've got a rough idea of where they're going and what they're going to be up to in the next day or so. Just moving, possibly just moving. Just the sun was encroaching a little bit on this large male. And from now silent baboons, Steph has found some vervet monkeys who are also a very, very important warning system in the bush. So we'll head back across to Steph and catch up with you all a little bit later.
And from sleeping cats to some monkeys, some vervet monkeys. This is I think this is the male, and he's at a slightly more elevated position because he's keeping watch over his troop that's feeding off in the grasses around us. These are quite interesting little monkeys. You know, we don't see them that often on the show, mainly because the bush that they like to live in is usually quite thick and adjacent to drainage lines. We don't always have roads right next to drainage lines. But definitely my little friends in the bush, these guys are supreme leopard finders. And without them, really we would battle to find as many leopard as what we do. Although that wouldn't be the case today. I seem to have developed a knack for not finding leopard over the last couple of days. They are running circles around me. Not too bad, my luck will change. Now coming back to the vervet monkeys, one male per troop, and the troops can number anywhere from sort of 8 to about 16 animals, and are really a transition species. They're not truly arboreal monkeys like a spider monkey would be, or a tree-loving monkey, and they're not true ground-loving monkeys like a patas monkey would be, or a chimpanzee, for instance. They are sort of half and half, and very, very adaptable because of that. They live on these fringes between the riverine forest, or for the riverine cover, and the bushveld, or the grasslands on the crests around here. And eat a wide variety of different seeds, fruits, leaves, flowers. I've even seen monkeys eating insects. I saw one catch a mouse one day. Oh, there's one sitting in the open over there, Andrew, just on the branch. There's a youngster sitting on the branch over there. Another youngster that's busy walking on the ground. The monkey that we were just watching, sitting in the tree, he's keeping a weather eye open for predators. Leopard and eagles, big eagles, will take monkeys. Crowned eagle, martial eagle, definitely take monkeys of this size. And what a funny morning it's been this morning. I must say, we left this morning with lions roaring in our ears, myself and Andrew, and we followed the lions roaring to our boundary. We found two different sets of fresh leopard tracks, one heading off our boundary, tracks of a female, and then male tracks coming into our area. But they were driven over, and I'm not too sure where they went from there. We haven't quite found out where he's come out of the block, if indeed he's come out of the block. Nice elephant sighting, and now we're ending off with this vervet monkey sighting. And on that note, I think I'm going to be sending you back through to Jamie to go and finish off the show with those lions. So from myself, Steph, and Andrew, we just want to say thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you on this afternoon's Sunset Drive. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you soon. Couple of hours. Bye.
Welcome back, and we have just shifted position ever so slightly just to have a really, really good look at these three young Birmingham boys, all looking into the worse for the wear, definitely carrying the scars of their conflicts over the last few days. looking uncomfortable. And it will be very, very interesting to see if these boys will obtain some of the legendary statuses of coalitions of the past. And I'm thinking specifically of the Mapocho males, as well as the Majingis, the Salati coalitions, all very, very big male lion coalitions that have made a considerable stamp on lion genetics that will continue to affect the lions in this area for a very, very long time to come, many, many years. And they are going to have their work cut out for them. They're in the area, and they're to take on the timber lions, who unfortunately I think are reaching the end of their time as rulers of this particular area. It is the natural way of things. Unfortunately, it's going to be very sad to see, but it will be extraordinary, and we are so fortunate that we are in the position to be able to follow this story from start to finish and see exactly where these Birmingham boys will end up being. And although it's going to be brutal at times, they are going to end up, if they do succeed, fathering a long line of very good-looking, physically, genetically healthy line of cubs in the future. And they will be very, very staunch protectors of that group. So, a wonderful sunrise safari. I have loved having you all on the back of the vehicle with me. And it is, of course, fantastic to have VM back on board, to have him back around. So a big thank you to Tara and Jess in FC, and thank you guys for all of your time spent with us. It has been a really interesting sunrise safari. That Ellie sighting was quite delightful. That baby elephant was absolutely adorable. And now at least the Birmingham boys have settled down to spending the day just within our boundaries, so we get to see them for the last few seconds of the sunrise safari. So wherever you are in the world, have a fantastic day or a fantastic evening, and catch us later for the sunset safari, where we will definitely at least be trying to find out where these Birmingham boys have been going and what they will be up to next. So we'll see you in just a couple of hours. Enjoy the rest of your day.